They say love is about presence, about giving more. But Machiavelli would laugh. Men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. Replace inheritance with affection, approval, power, and the mask falls. You were told that loyalty would win hearts, that consistency is love. Yet every time you gave more, they vanished. Why? Because in the theater of human behavior, one is weakness, and distance is value. Machiavelli understood this. Power is not earned through kindness, but projected through scarcity. The more you chase, the less they feel. The more you give, the more invisible you become. They only want you when you've disappeared. That's not brokenness. That's design in a world of illusion. Distance is the only truth. Let's tear down the myth of emotional equality and uncover the cold symmetry of human desire. This is not about cruelty. This is about clarity. They told you to show up, to always be there. That consistency builds love. That presence makes people stay. But the truth? The ones who are always available become invisible, and the ones who disappear become unforgettable. Desire isn't born in the comfort of certainty. It's born in the torment of ambiguity, when they don't know where you are. When your name echoes but your voice does not respond. When you vanish just before they expected you to arrive. That's when the craving begins. Machiavelli believed that silence wasn't weakness, it was warfare. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. What you said, what you gave, what you offered was a tactic, and tactics change. Your silence isn't a void. It's a weapon. It isn't a lack of affection. It's the preservation of value, because the moment you give them everything, they have no reason to imagine anything, and what can't be imagined can't be craved. You think closeness builds connection, but proximity creates familiarity, and familiarity is death. The more they know, the less they fantasize. The more they see, the less they search. The more you give, the more you shrink. Attention is not affection, it's currency. The more of it you flood into the world, the more it gets devalued. You become like a coin tossed on every table, recognized but never treasured. To Machiavelli, power was never given, it was taken through precision. He understood that to be desired, you must disappear strategically, coldly, without explanation. He never explained his absence. He let it speak for him. That's what makes silence so violent. It doesn't just say, "I'm gone." It says, "You don't get to know why you are." Not punishing them, you are positioning yourself. Silence is not avoidance, it's architecture. It creates edges, mystery, depth. Every time you explain, you flatten. Every time you reply instantly, you bleed urgency. Every time you over-communicate, you lose shape. Eventually, they stop listening because they already know what you'll say, but vanish. And they'll replay your last words. They'll scroll. They'll question. They'll ache for what once felt endless, but now feels foreign. That ache is power, the kind Machiavelli knew couldn't be faked, only earned through subtraction in war. The most dangerous armies aren't the ones that roar, they're the ones that disappear behind the hills, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. So disappear, not emotionally, tactically, not in pain, but in poise. Let them feel the weight of your absence. Let them ask the questions you never answer. Let your silence become a throne they kneel before. They can't crave what they've captured. They can't chase what always waits. You are not a page in their story. You are the ink they ran out of, the breath that left the room. Machiavelli never begged. He watched, he waited, he vanished when the game turned dull and returned only when the board reset. So why do you stay? Why do you linger in rooms that have stopped listening? Why do you speak to ears that no longer hear you? Because they taught you that loyalty is love, but they never taught you that loyalty without leverage is servitude. You owe no one your presence. In fact, your presence is only powerful when it is earned, not assumed, not expected, not demanded. They must feel the storm you left behind, not just the silence, but the aftertaste of your retreat. The absence must feel sharp, intentional, final, not because you are punishing, but because you are ascending. A king does not shout to be noticed, he enters. And the room adjusts, and when he leaves, they wonder if he'll ever return. That's who you must become. Not present, not predictable, but powerful in withdrawal, because presence without value is noise, but silence with intent is music to Machiavelli. Control was never about domination, it was about perception. Let them perceive you as rare, distant, mysterious, and they will inflate your worth far beyond your reality. That's the dark advantage of silence. It allows others to build myths around your mystery, to fantasize about the version of you that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't explain, and in a world obsessed with performance, you become legendary for the one thing no one else dares to do: disappear strategically, cleanly, completely, and then watch who searches for you, watch who aches, watch who suddenly remembers the value you gave for free, and now realize it had a cost. Let your silence become a storm, one they never see coming, one they never forget, because the truth is cold. They only want you. When you stop wanting them, and in that silence, you are not lost, you are not weak, you are rising. The principle is this: desire is not built in closeness, it is built in the echo of your exit. The crown is not worn through effort, it's forged in silence. They told you that love is noble, that affection is sacred, that the highest virtue is to give without asking, to care without condition, to love without limit. But Machiavelli would have called that delusion wrapped in gold. Affection, when given freely to everyone, becomes worthless. You were not born to be a fountain of warmth for people who offer you cold silence in return. You were not placed on this earth to pour endlessly into others while they sip from your soul without gratitude. This is the lie they sold you, that giving more makes you more lovable, that the path to respect is to care harder, that one day someone will appreciate you because you love them without hesitation. But love without standards isn't love, it's submission. And to Machiavelli, submission was never kindness, it was failure. It is much safer to be feared than loved. He wrote, not because love has no place, but because love without limits invites chaos. Fear sets boundaries, love removes them. Affection, he understood, is a tool of rule, not a gift of mercy. When you hand your affection to those who haven't earned it, you aren't noble, you're leaking power. You're writing blank checks to people who never signed a contract. You're bleeding royalty into the dirt. Affection is currency, and like any currency, when you flood the market, inflation kills the value. The more you give without return, the more invisible you become. Think about it. You text first, you show up, you explain, you forgive quickly, forget easily, love deeply, and they feel nothing. Why? Because affection unearned is affection unseen. People value what they have to reach for, not what's handed to them like scraps. When affection costs them nothing, it means nothing. This is not cynicism, this is accounting. You have a limited emotional budget. Every message you send, every compliment you give. Every moment of warmth costs you something, and if you're investing in people with zero return, you're not generous, you're bankrupt. To Machiavelli, this wasn't about heart. It was about hierarchy. Power doesn't cling, it chooses. It doesn't offer, it selects. So why are you pouring affection into people who treat it like tap water? Why are you loving people into comfort when they offer you confusion? You don't fix disinterest with devotion, you fix it with distance. Affection isn't proof of your worth, it's a reward for theirs. You don't give love to prove yourself. You give love to reward alignment, loyalty, respect, effort. Affection must become selective. Like gold coins dropped only into the hands of those who serve the empire, not those who burn its gates. You are not cruel for withholding what's been devalued. You are controlled. To keep giving without standards is to build a kingdom with open doors where anyone can enter, rob you blind, and leave you bleeding. That's not kindness, that's emotional suicide, because the cruelest wounds aren't delivered by enemies, they're invited by your own hands. When you give warmth to those who treat fire like a toy, Machiavelli never confused sentiment with structure. Love was optional, control was understood that people respond not to affection but to scarcity, to standards, to restraint. You want to be loved? Make your affection rare, make it conditional, make it earned, because when everyone has access, no one sees the value. You become the emotional equivalent of background noise, always there, never heard. But when you withhold, not out of bitterness, but strategy, you shift. You're no longer the one waiting to be chosen. You're the one choosing, and suddenly, everything changes. People look up. They notice the absence of your warmth. They feel the cold that follows your retreat, and they ask themselves, what did I do to lose this? That's the moment you hold power, not when you pour endlessly into the ungrateful, but when you step back and force them to reach. This is not cruelty, this is calibration. You're not taking away love, you're reassigning it to places where it will be returned, to people who don't drain you, who don't confuse your affection for obligation, who don't treat your care like a given, but as a gift. You are not a fountain, you are a flame, and flames don't burn endlessly for everyone. They choose when to flicker and when to ignite. So step backs, stop proving, start watching. Let your affection become a currency again, something precious, something felt, because when it becomes rare, it becomes remembered, and when it's remembered, it becomes powerful. That is how you build emotional empires, not by loving louder, but by loving with leverage. The principle is this: affection, like currency, loses all value when spent on the undeserving. Withhold it not in anger, but in strategy. Machiavelli would say, reward only those who protect. You wanted them deeply, so you assumed they would want you back. But desire does not obey symmetry, it thrives in imbalance. It grows in the shadows between what's given and what's withheld, and it dies the moment you try to make it mutual. They told you that love was a mirror, that if you gave fully, they would reflect it, that effort would be reciprocated, that clarity would be returned. But Machiavelli knew better. He wrote, men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. He never said mutual love. He never believed in shared hunger. He believed in leverage. Want is rarely mirrored. It is pulled, stretched, triggered by tension, not tenderness. You gave everything, and in return, they blinked, looked down, distanced, not because you weren't enough, but because you gave too much. You revealed your desire too soon. You placed your cards on the table before the game began, and they saw the end before they ever felt the tension there. Is no chase without mystery, no value without withholding. But you chased, not because you were foolish, but because you were told that real love is proven by persistence. It isn't. It's destroyed by it. Every call you made to check in, every text you sent to clarify, every time you opened your heart hoping they'd match you, you were giving away your position in the war. They didn't reject you out of cruelty. They simply didn't feel the need to fight for something already. Theirs to Machiavelli, this was never mercy. It was miscalculation. What must be created, not confessed, and if you must ask for attention, you've already lost control. They didn't ignore you to hurt you. They ignored you because they could. You gave them certainty. They gave you silence. That's the economy of asymmetry, and it always leaves the giver poor. So what do? You shift. You stop seeking mirrored effort and start watching the slope of the field when it tilts toward you. You stay still. You watch who climbs when it tilts away. You stop throwing ropes to people who never intended to reach you. Desire, true desire, is a reaction to absence, not presence, to curiosity, not clarity. You don't need to manipulate with lies. You manipulate with silence. You don't need to pretend you don't care. You need to show less than they expect. Let the space between your signals breathe. Give them just enough warmth to question if the fire's still alive, not enough to sit by it. This isn't a game. It's survival, because mutual want is beautiful only in fantasy. In reality, it must be built, layered through tension, tested through restraint. Never give them the satisfaction of full knowing, only the ache of partial access. Let your silence be the invitation. Let your withdrawal be the mystery, because when they know they have you, they stop asking who you are. Principle is this: mutual desire is not found, it is engineered through strategic imbalance. Pull back, stay still, let their curiosity become the chase. You believed they would meet you halfway. That effort deserved effort. That desire, when pure, would be reflected back to you like a mirror. But mirrors don't create, they copy. And most people don't reflect love. They absorb it, drain it, and walk away full, while you're left hollow. Machiavelli would never call that strength. He would call it surrender. He wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear." He didn't say shared love. He didn't say equal want. He said impulses, and impulses are manipulated, not earned. You've been taught to chase, taught to clarify, taught to reach again and again, until they understand your value. But here's the dark truth. The moment you chase, they stop seeing you as value. You become noise. You become needing war. The one who chases is exposed. In power, the one who chases is beneath. And in love, the one who chases becomes forgettable. They only start wanting you when you stop moving toward them, because chasing destroys influence. It tells them they have something you don't, and once that illusion takes root, they feel no need to earn you. You've already shown up, already declared yourself, already crowned them in a throne they never asked to sit in. You believed that wanting someone deeply would make them want you back, but want is not mirrored. It's manipulated. People don't crave what's easy. They crave what's uncertain, and uncertainty is crafted, not with lies, but with less. You don't manipulate by pretending you don't care. You manipulate by revealing just enough to make them question, to make them wait. to make them wonder if they ever really had you in the first place. That tension is power. That ambiguity is influence. If you have to ask for attention, you've already lost the position of control. You are no longer a sovereign. You are a servant, and no one desires the one kneeling first. The illusion of mutual want is the trap. It convinces you to keep giving, to keep speaking, to keep showing up uninvited, and while you wait for reciprocation, they walk away, not because you weren't worthy, but because you were too willing to Machiavelli. This was never mercy. It was miscalculation. You thought they didn't respond because they were unsure. But the truth is worse. They didn't respond because they didn't have to. Your attention was guaranteed. So your absence never mattered. Here's the shift. Stop seeking mirrored effort. Start studying asymmetry. Power lies in imbalance. Influence lives in silence. Appear calm. Appear unmoved. Appear chosen by others, by purpose, by fate, and let them come to you unsure, curious, hungry. The principle is this: stop proving your value by movement. Influence is stillness disguised as mystery. Pull back, stay cold. Make them chase a shadow they never earned. They don't react to who you are. They react to who they think you are. And that's the difference between presence and power. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Because in the world of strategy, truth is not sacred. It is only useful if it serves your image. You could be brilliant, loyal, rare. But if you appear desperate, you'll be dismissed. You could be broken, hollow, unsure. But if you appear wanted, you'll be pursued. Reality is irrelevant. Perception is the throne. We were trained to believe in authenticity, that vulnerability earns connection, that honesty is strength. But Machiavelli knew the emotionally honest are often emotionally conquered, because power doesn't come from bearing your soul. It comes from shaping the mirror they look into and making sure it reflects only what serves you. This is not deception. This is defense. This is the war mask worn by kings. You don't show the wound. You show the blade that caused it. You don't reveal your longing. You reveal your options, and the more you seem wanted by others, the more those watching will want you too. Because humans don't seek truth. They follow demand. They chase validation. They want what others want. Your value is not just what you are, but how many hands are reaching for you. So you must control the narrative, not explain it, not defend it. Control it. Let them wonder why you're quiet. Let them assume your silence is confidence. Let them believe your distance is choice. Your indifference is authority. Your mystery is power. You don't need to be untouchable. You only need to look untouched. Machiavelli would never asked to be understood, only to be obeyed, to be desired. Don't tell your story, craft your silhouette. Let the fire burn behind curtains. Let the smoke rise while you remain still. This is theater, and every movement is a performance. Every word you offer is a script. Every absence is a scene. The weak rush to explain. The strong disappear and let their echo speak. You Ved been taught to be transparent, but windows are only powerful when the glass is tinted, when no one can quite see the truth. But they feel something inside is worth looking for, so when they ask, "What's really going on?" say nothing. Smile, disappear. They don't need your truth. They need your silhouette. The principle is this: truth is not power. Truth is only leverage when wrapped in the illusion that controls perception. Power is not who you are, it's who they believe you are. You don't need to give more. You need to give less strategically, not to punish. To provoke. Machiavelli believed that deprivation builds more loyalty than abundance. He understood the human mind doesn't crave what it receives. It craves what it's denied, just enough to remember it exists when you're always present. They stop seeing you. When you vanish, they start hearing you. This is not cruelty, it's design. You give a moment of warmth, then silence, a glance, then disappearance. You offer them the echo of your presence, not the weight of it, and that echo grows louder with time, because silence isn't absence. Silence is a canvas. They will paint it with longing. They will fill the gap with their own fire. The emotionally weak confuse love with consistency, but consistency dulls. Predictability kills tension, and tension is the spark that keeps the mind alive, so you become a storm that never finishes. A page torn halfway through the chapter, a fire that warms, then leaves them in the dark. They don't chase your skin, they chase your shadow, because your shadow moved, and now they need to find where it went. This is the art of psychological starvation. Intermittent reward, intermittent presence. You're not always there, but you never fully leave, and that's what drives them mad. You don't answer every message. You don't show up every time. You disappear mid-sentence. You leave the door open, but never step through it again. They will replay your last glance, reread your last sentence. They'll turn your silence into meaning, because that's what the starved mind does. Machiavelli never gave all at once. He gave enough to build curiosity. Then let them wait in the unknown. This is not a lack of empathy, it's emotional strategy. You are not closing the door, you're letting it creak. Let them imagine what they did wrong. Let them rehearse their response to a conversation that never finished, and when they finally see you again, you'll feel 10 times heavier, because they've carried the weight of your absence. This is not manipulation, this is restraint. You are not playing games, you are playing the long war. The principle is this: they do not chase presence, they chase interruption. Let them starve for your shadow, and your silence will taste like power. You bent, you reached, you offered what was never asked for, and wondered why it was never valued. You thought availability was loyalty, that vulnerability was virtue, that giving your time, your body, your heart, without them earning it, made you noble. But Machiavelli would call it treason, not against them, against yourself. He wrote, "A wise man ought always to follow the paths beaten by great men. And great men do not beg, they do not chase, they do not apologize for their position. At the top of the hill, they let others climb, they reward effort, they punish disrespect. You were the prize, but you acted like a favor. You were the throne, but knelt as if asking to be sat upon. And every time you chased, every time you offered more than was earned, you chipped away at your own crown, because when the king abandons the throne to walk among beggars, he teaches the kingdom that he's just another man, and soon they treat him like one. The truth is uncomfortable. They never stop to question your value, because you didn't make them. You were so eager to be loved. You forgot you were supposed to be chosen not by chance, but by standard, by distance, by gravity. You were so focused on being accepted that you forgot how rare you were, and rarity never has to beg. To Machiavelli, power was not something you demand, it is something you protect. With silence, with withdrawal, with control. He would say, a ruler who acts like a subject invites rebellion. Respect cannot coexist with excessive familiarity. You were too close, too responsive, too easy to reach. That's not intimacy. That surrender royalty is not built on kindness. It's built on distance, on myth, on earned access. So what does it mean? To reclaim the crown? It means every time you don't send that second message, you are building your castle. Every time you withhold that unnecessary explanation, you are reinforcing your gate. Every time you delay your presence, you are training them to wait. This is not bitterness. This is architecture. This is psychological sovereignty. You do not need to yell to be heard. You do not need to plead to be seen. You are the presence they remember. You are the standard they rise to meet. But first, you must stop stepping down. You teach them how to treat you by how you treat yourself, by how easily you are reached, by how quickly you abandon your boundaries. For attention power is not loud, it is still. It is unmoved by affection or absence. Lion doesn't explain its silence, it simply watches and is respected because of it. You gave them a kingdom. They didn't even knock, and still, you handed them the keys. Now you reclaim the lock, you fortify the walls, and you remember, you were the story. You were the mystery. You were the question mark they once obsessed over. Before you broke yourself into full sentences for them, let them wonder again. Let them work. Let them climb, because kings don't descend. They rule, and queens do not beg. They select. You were never meant to prove. You were meant to be proven. To the emotionally undisciplined, seek to be understood. The powerful simply watch. They observe who shows up, who stays, and who dares to overstep. Machiavelli never asked to be loved. He demanded to be feared, respected, obeyed, because he knew love fades, but perception endures. So hold still. Let silence become your guard. Let mystery become your scent. And let the world come to you, because your presence is not a gift. It's a reward, and rewards are earned, not handed to the ungrateful. The principle is this: you were the prize, always were. Act like it. Stay on the throne, and let them remember what they lost the moment you stepped back. Now you see it. It was never about being enough. It was about being scarce. Machiavelli would say, it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. You are the title. You are the weight. The moment you withhold, you become the question. Moment you stop chasing, they start searching. This isn't bitterness. This is balance. Let them wonder where you went. Let them fill the silence you left behind with stories they will never confirm. Pull back, disappear, reposition. The game is no longer emotional honesty. The game is emotional architecture. You will not be available. You will not be eager. You will not be conquered. They only want you when you don't want them. So don't want yourself more. Walk away without a sound. That silence, that's your legacy now.